Hey everybody, this is Brett Grayson of Tactical Pay Radio, reminding you that the podcast you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great content at selfdefenseradio.net.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, the podcast about all things IDPA. And now, here's your host, the only man to shoot the same non-threat 4 times at Nationals, Lloyd Bailey.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear. All too often, gun owners and gun culture are portrayed in the worst possible ways in the media. Old, racist white guys who love their guns more than kids. This podcast aims to counter that narrative by shining a light on the members of gun culture who are involved in IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association. Now, while IDPA members make up just a tiny fraction of the overall gun-owning public, I think they're a representative cross-section of that demographic. They're all races, young and old, men and women, salt-of-the-earth kinds of people who love their country and who are great people to be around. And this podcast is about them. Today, you're going to meet one of these awesome people. All right, let me ask you before we get started, do you need more magazines? Magazines wear out over time, they get damaged, they get lost. It's nice to have extras in case one stops working, or if you want to use them for separate, for dry fire, or if you just don't want to reload as much between stages. Make sure you've got plenty of extra mags by visiting Gun Mag Warehouse. I use them myself. The prices are great. The shipping is fast. Visit unloadpodcast.com/gunmags and shop today. And if you buy, we get a little commission to help support the show. All right, so sit back and enjoy the show. Here is this week's special guest. Our guest for today's show is Ben Bolden from Moscow, Tennessee. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, Lloyd. Thanks for having me on here.
Well, tell us a little about yourself. Tell us what you do for a living there in Moscow.
Well, as you said, I live in Moscow, Tennessee. That's West Tennessee, and I am in banking. Work at a little small bank about 10 minutes from the house, so not too long of a drive.
Growing up in West Tennessee, I'm guessing you grew up around guns, hunting, and that sort of thing. Were you introduced to guns as a kid, or is that something that you developed as you got older?
Yeah, it was West Tennessee, North Mississippi. Plenty of places to hunt, plenty of deer to hunt. My father and grandparents are all farmers, so we tried to take as many deer as we could legally to keep from eating all the crops. But yeah, I've been around guns pretty much my whole life. Mainly, as most people, shotguns and rifles. And I really didn't get into handguns probably until I got married. I decided to go get one for home protection, and kind of got the bug after that. I think my first one was a little Taurus Millennium Pro, I believe, was my first handgun.
How long have you been involved in competitive shooting? Where did you get the interest in IDPA and competition?
Well, several years ago, I was before we moved to Nashville, I was working at a little tractor company near the house, and I never got off on Saturdays. I had to work every Saturday, and finally got off one weekend and went up to MSSA in Memphis. They had an IDPA match there, and I really don't remember who I heard about it from, but I was able to attend that. Didn't do very well, but I enjoyed it immensely, and then I basically didn't get to shoot it for quite a while after that because I was still working Saturdays, and my job took me to Nashville, Tennessee, and quite a bit of groups up there do different matches throughout the week. Tuesday nights, I think, and they do them on the weekend. Anyway, I had plenty of opportunities to get involved and do it up there. Kind of been doing it ever since. I think it's been maybe 4 or 5 years now. I really don't remember exactly how long, but something like that.
Well, tell us about your home club. Where is it located? What's the name? Give them a little shout out and tell us a little about what kind of matches they hold and how often.
Well, I would say MSSA in Memphis is probably the closest to me. I don't know which one I would consider home because I go there. I go to DeSoto Rifle and Pistol Club in Como, Mississippi, and then there's Ridge Crossing Shooting Club right outside of Tupelo, Mississippi. So they're all pretty close to me, but I probably get to MSSA more than the others. But they put on a great match there. They've got lots of steel, lots of nice walls. Como's come a long way with their stuff too. They just got a bunch of new equipment, new walls. So plenty of good places to shoot.
Do you remember that first IDPA match out at MSSA? Do you remember shooting that first time?
I don't think I could tell you the stage or the courses. I remember how nervous I was until the buzzer went off. I get nervous when the buzzer goes off now, but then it was just nerves up until I started shooting. And once you do all that, it kind of makes you forget.
Right. I asked that question a lot because I remember the first match I ever went to, and it was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and really the only thing, I'm like everybody else, everybody seems to remember being really nervous and the buzzer brain effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I do remember, one stage, and it was one of these things where you had to, back in the day when you had to do tactical sequence, right? Everybody gets one until you, and then everybody gets one before anybody gets two.
Right.
And it was all on the move, strong hand only with a briefcase in your left hand. And I have video of that from first person perspective, and my gun's going everywhere. I can't remember. As soon as the buzzer goes off, I'm just shooting at everything, and I can't remember what sequence I'm supposed to shoot in. And just, it's like 1, 1, 2, back to this other one, and back and forth. And it just looked ridiculous. And it was the best example of buzzer brain you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, I do remember that. Now that you say that, I kind of wish they didn't do away with it, because that's the only way I could make up time on a few people was outthink them, because I couldn't outshoot them.
I was so glad they got rid of that rule. So, what division do you compete in most often? What equipment what gun do you shoot now that you've upgraded, I guess, from the Taurus?
Yeah. Well, I mainly do CCP now. I was doing a lot of CDP there for a little while, but I finally got a hold of this M&P 2.0 compact they just released. I think end of last year, something like that. I've always liked the M&Ps, but they did a good job on this gun, and I've got a nice trigger in it, and I also carry the gun, so I just kind of stuck with that. But mainly CCP now. I'll probably concentrate on that for a while. What
was the first sanction match that you ever were involved in?
It was up at Casa in Arkansas. I don't remember if it was Fall Brawl or the Razorback Shootout. It was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but that was the first one, and the nerves were a lot worse at the first sanction match than they were at the first IDPA match, and I did a lot more poorly than I thought I was going to do.
What do you remember aside from the nerves and the final performance? Was anything about that match that stands out about that experience?
Well, it's odd. Even though I did so terrible at the match, I immediately wanted to do another one. It's just that bug that gets you. It's different than the local matches. The sanction match is a big deal. Lots of people there. It feels like a big deal, and you want to get that little $3 piece of wood, with that you can put on your wall, because that's what everybody wants,
Exactly. A little bit of recognition.
A little bit, yeah.
So, currently, what's your practice routine like? Do you do a lot of dry fire? Do you do Do you balance that with live fire, or is it all live fire, or what's the practice routine like?
Well, it's good that you asked me that now. If you had asked me about a month ago, I would have told you very little. But I've actually been doing, I don't, percentage wise, I'd probably say 70 to 80% dry fire, but I do have a small range at the house I can shoot on. So I try to put a little live fire in there just to test what you're doing. But mainly right now, I'm just trying to kind of build my grip up. I've realized that being able to shoot fast and accurate is kind of all about grip strength and a proper grip and that sort of thing. So I've put a lot of time into that lately.
Is there a routine or a drill or a set of drills that you like that you run every practice, or that you recommend to people?
Well, something I've done since I've really started shooting, you always have that one person that's a little better than you that you kind of look at, and see and wonder what they're doing. And I've picked out a few guys throughout the years in the local setting to, for lack of a better word, to shoot for, to try to get to that level. And then I realized I should just start watching Bob Vogel videos, or the guys that are already your masters and distinguished masters, and just see what they do, because they have plenty of videos out there to do that. But everybody's got their own grip. Mike C. Calandra will tell you to do it one way, Bob Vogel will tell you to do it the other way. So I kind of just try all of those until I get one that I like and that seems to work. And the only way you're going to know is if you go out and shoot what you practiced and see what it does. So, but that's pretty much it. I don't know that I stick to one thing. I may do just a draw and fire, a dry fire drill at the house. I may do that one night and, don't focus on reloads. Just do one thing at a time and really try to nail that one thing down.
Yeah, that's sort of what I do. I took Seeklander's sort of his structure, his dry fire structure, where you're working on different things on different nights or different days. And I take the drills from, say, Steve Anderson, and I kind of adapt them. So one night I'm doing, draw and present, and another night I'm doing a lot of reloads because I'm focusing on getting the reload better. And then the third night or the next night I'm doing something that's like table starts or something weird, that you don't do, that you don't normally do a lot of. Is there, what kind of stages do you like? If I were to ask you about a stage or a match that you really enjoyed, that you shot a major match that you were involved in recently, what comes to mind? What's something that still stands out, or that you found fun or interesting, or you say, man, I really would love to shoot that again?
Well, I like props. I don't like the props you have to hold and carry with you, but any type of unique, whatever in a stage, I kind of enjoy that. But one that comes to mind is, I think it was Fall Brawl, maybe 2 years ago, either last year or the year before that. They had a stage in the shoot house, and you work your way through the house, and when you get to the back of it, they had a toilet back there, and they had it rigged up where when you sat on the toilet, it activated a disappearing target of some sort. I can't remember if it's a clamshell or a out and back, but I had pretty well decided I was going to shoot that target as many times as I could before it disappeared, because that was the last target. So I got to sit on my prop, sit on my toilet, and shoot really fast a bunch of times. So those are always good things, But that was a lot of fun.
How many times do you get to shoot sitting on the toilet? That's true.
Yeah, I know. Well, the odd thing was that you ended up on the toilet. You run through your house with your gun, and then the last step is to get to the toilet. So it was unique.
That most of the ones that I've seen start you on the toilet. So yeah, that's
right.
That's pretty cool. Here's an unusual question that I throw in every now and then just for funsies. Besides besides your gun, your holster, the regular stuff that everybody carries in their range bag, is there something unusual, something odd that you carry with you that you take what you always make sure that you take with you to the range or to a match?
Well, odd or unusual.
And if you don't have anything odd or unusual, that's fine. But sometimes I get an odd answer and it makes for entertainment. So
yeah, I think the main thing, that I make sure I have is food or a drink. Not unusual, but it has nothing to do with guns or anything like
Right.
that. I've got to eat at least every other stage, or I kind of get hangry and
Right.
tend to do poorly.
You bringing up the food made me think. How do you are you like everyone else where the match break in the middle and you sit down and of course, because it's the South and we always have these like massive comfort food meals in the middle of a match, and then everybody's expected to get up and get right back at it when all you really want to do is lie down and take a nap. How do you power through that? Do you have a secret sauce or something? Is there some way that you have figured out to get past that so that the second half of your match just doesn't feel like it's in slow motion?
Yeah, the answer's not a fun one, but I think if you drink plenty of water or Gatorade or whatever and eat as you go through the beginning of the match, that way you're not starving when you get to lunch. You won't overeat. You have to resist it a little bit because, especially when we go down to Louisiana and that food's so good there, you just want to eat and eat and eat. But that's kind of my trick. I make sure I'm not starving when I get to the meal, and then I can eat a little bit and then go look at stages while everybody else is getting ready to take a nap.
Yep, that's exactly. How many matches a year do you typically how many local matches do you typically shoot a month, and how many sanctioned matches do you try to sign up for each year?
Well, I usually do, let's see, there's at least 2 in Arkansas. I would guess probably somewhere around 5 to 7 sanctioned, on a good year. I didn't really get to do many this year and may not get to do too many next year just because my wife and I were trying to go through a bunch of fertility stuff, and now we're going to have a baby in November, so everybody tells me life stops when that happens for a year or so.
Well, and congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you. But yeah, that's 5 to 7 in a year is good for me. Sanctioned matches, local matches, I can shoot one every weekend if I want to, usually just because I have so many options. But I usually try to pace myself a little bit, at least 2 though.
Is there a sanctioned match that you pencil in on the calendar every year and you say, if I don't shoot anything else, I'm gonna shoot this one? Is there one you look forward to every year?
Yes, that would be the Battle on the Bayou in Louisiana. For more reasons than one, the match is great. I enjoy it down there, but we go to this restaurant. It's called Boudreaux and Thibodeau's, I believe. And they've had it only 2 years now, but we've been both years, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of extras along with the match that come with a trip to South Louisiana. What is it about IDPA that keeps you coming back? What is it that excites you about it? What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you really love about IDPA? If somebody were to ask you, well, why do you do that? What's the big deal? What would you tell somebody about IDPA, about why you love it so much?
Well, I like to shoot, period, and that gives me an opportunity to do that. But, there's lots of great people. I've made a lot of friends that I'll hang out with outside of shooting. So that's a good perk. But it really does kind of open your eyes a little bit to your inadequacies, shooting outside of competition. I think I may have gotten interested in it after taking a self-defense class or a firearm class. Now that I think about it, I believe that's where I kind of got the idea from the instructor, maybe. but it gives you an opportunity to kind of just see what you got, and test yourself regularly. Make sure your skills stay sharp and all that. But the biggest draw for me is just having fun and being able to hang out with folks that have like interests.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, Ben. Congratulations again on the baby on the way, and best of luck to you in the future. Again, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Maybe he'll be on your podcast here in 8 or 9 years whenever he can shoot.
That sounds good. Look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, appreciate it, Lloyd.
All right, that's all we've got for you today. Thank you so much to our special guest for coming on the show. If you know somebody in the IDPA community who deserves some recognition, I'd love to talk to them. Send me an email at Lloyd, L-L-O-Y-D, at unloadpodcast.com. Check out the show notes for today's episode and listen to past episodes at unloadpodcast.com. And if you like what you hear on the show and you'd like to support us, help keep the lights on, pay the bills, we would love your support. Visit patreon.com/unload and make a small monthly contribution to help continue what we're doing here. Tune in again next week for another edition of Unload and Show Clear.